Hello. So today, welcome to this another tutorial of Excel functions. And as you are Excel enthusiast, and so am I, uh, I'll give you this presentation on advanced Excel functions for data manipulation. We'll go through some of the functions that will help you manipulate data for large data files and play some cool tricks with it. So let's Excel together, brought to you by Parth and G. Thank you. Here, if you can see, I have created a small data set which has 20 observations, and we'll look at some of the functions that we can use. The first column here is person name, age, city, occupation, salary, and education. And it has, as I said, 20 columns. Now let's look at the questions that I have formed and the functions which we are going to look at and the question which we'll answer through it. The first is TEXTSPLIT, index match, SUMIFS, let, and count unique. Let's move on to the tutorial data. Let's take the first function text split, and if I want to split column A uh, shown here into two different columns, first name and last name, I would just start with our function text split after an equal sign. You can use tab to just select that. Whenever we write a function in Excel, it shows the syntax down below, whichever the function we have used. We have different options. First is text, then column delimiter, row delimiter, etc. Now let's get on with our function. First we'll put in our text which we want to split, that is A2. As you can see, it is also highlighted over here in blue. Next, the column delimiter is space, and then we'll just close, and there it has splitted the column in two. Now we'll just drag and drop it to our observation, and the Excel is smart enough to do it for all our data. There we have created two new columns from our person name column. Let me just put around a border for it, and that's our first function text. Okay, now moving on to our next function, that is index match. The question is, what is the salary of Diana Miller? Let me copy it down over here in this sheet, and as you can see, we want to get a specified information from a particular row, that is of Diana Miller. We have 20 observations over here. You can easily do it manually for this small data. But what if you have a very large data set? In that case, you won't be able to do it, this kind of index matches manually. Therefore, we have got this function. So let's move on with it. First, we'll put in equal index. As you can see, the syntax has come up. We have different options: arrays, rows number, and etc. We'll first start with array. We want to look up salary, so we'll put in our column range E2 to E21. Then we'll use match function. Will match for Diana Miller. We'll look up that value in column A. So we'll put in A2 to A21, and we want an exact match. As you can see, 0 shows exact match. So we'll put in 0, we'll close both brackets and enter. So it showed us 90,000, which is the salary of Diana Miller. But if I put in a 50 here, it shows 50. And if let's change it back to 90,000. Moving on to our next function, which is SUMIFS. And let me just copy the question and the function over here. Our question is calculate the salary for people living in San Francisco. So SUMIFS is basically a combination of two different functions, sum and if. So as you can see, those both are two independent functions which we are going to combine and get a value using a complex function. It is not that much of complex, but for a beginner, it can be somewhat complicated. So let's start is equal to sum, then and then we'll select our criteria, that is of salary range E2 to E21. Then we'll put in, oops, I forgot if over here, uh, because it is a defined function. The Excel has already combined those two for us. So we'll directly put in some if. So if we put in some ifs, we have clarified our first range, and now we'll put in our second range, that is C2 to C21. We want to look for specific values in this column, that is of cities, and we will look for San Francisco. So if I just close the bracket and put in enter, it would show 90,000 again, and that is Diana Miller, who lives in San Francisco. But what if let's say someone else lived in San Francisco. Let's say Isabel Lee, and we change it to San Francisco, and it sums up both those values 90 and 65, and we get 155K. So it is a dynamic calculation. We can get different answers from it. What if you want to find some your low range values or things like that, you can use this kind of function. Okay, now let's move on to the next function, that is let. Here is, let me take it to the main sheet. We have let function. It is more of a uh, coding similar function similar to coding. Will calculate the total salary and average salary of all person. We can Let's just get on with it. First, we'll put in let, and we can define different variable names and calculate them in the same function. And at the end, we will put in a message to display. So our first variable, which is total salary, and then we'll define that is sum of E2 to E21. We'll close that. We'll define our next. As you can see in the syntax, it says calculation or name2. So we'll move on to name2, that is average salary. And then we'll define average salary, calculate for that. So we'll use average function, E2 to E21, same as before. And then we'll type in a message to be displayed using both of these calculations. So first we'll put total salary in an inverted comma. So total salary, let me put in a dollar sign to be for the variable to be used later on. So after putting dollar sign, let me close this message. I'll put and to add to the message, just like we use in Python. And similarly, we have used total salary variable. As you show, the Excel already gave you a suggestion to use that total salary. Now let me put in the second message, average salary, close that, and we'll put an and to it, and then it will again give us the reference of average salary. We'll just select that, close the bracket, and voila. Here we have our total salary and average salary calculated from a single function and giving us a print output of it. Now, moving on, let me just bold it real quick. Now, moving on, let's see our last function, that is count unique. So here the question is, let me just take it to the main sheet. Total number of unique cities in the dataset. So we will look at column C's and just find out the count of unique cities in our data. So this is very useful when you have a large data set and you want to find out how many different kinds of values you have and things like that. Uh, Let me try to put a function for you. Sorry about that. Let me just rewind it up. So A, and there we go. Oh, it's a mess. Sorry. So okay, never mind. Let's just move on with our count unique. So let's start with equal to and then count. So as you can see, Excel has so many other functions similar to count. For count, it counts the number of cells in a range. Count A counts the number of cells in a range that are not empty. Count blank counts that are empty. Count F uses a combination of count and if, just like SUMIF over here, and then the other similar functions that we can use. Here we will use count A, that is we'll count non-blank, and then we will use unique with count function to get unique values from our C column. So we'll put in our range, and then we have 19. Earlier we had 20, but as we changed San Francisco twice, we had 19. Now let me change this to Denver again, and it shows 18. So this way all these functions are dynamic. You can use it for your data manipulation. Let me show you another thing. If there are just numerical columns in our data, we can get a descriptive analysis of things in this data tab. We'll go to data analysis tool pack. We'll just click on that. And it will give us various options for descriptive analysis. We'll select on descriptive statistics over here. We'll select our range, anything that has numerical values. So we'll just select E for now, and then it is columns. We have labels in first row, and then we'll select summary statistics over here and click OK. So it will open up a new worksheet as we had opted out before, and it will give us different statistics of that particular column. We have mean, median, mode, various range, minimum, maximum, etc. So let me just to rename the sheet to salary. Let's move on to our data. As you can see, another column has a numerical value, so we'll just do the same for that too. We'll select the column B this time, and all rest of the things are same. We'll click OK, and it does the same for age. Let me rename this to age again. There we go. Let me just configure the sheets, or better yet, let me just get them in one sheet. So I'll just drag and drop it over here. Just change the column length, delete the sheet, and rename it back to descriptives. So this way you can get kind of an overview of your numerical columns of your data. So this was a short overview for our small data. And we learned about these 5 different functions that we could use using these different questions. And as we saw, those were dynamic functions. Now, as we are leaving, let's look up at one or two other formulas that I think might be helpful for your analysis. As we did a function on index match, you might have heard of VLOOKUP. We can use that for this function, this data as well. So let's just get on with it. You could use it by making a different table altogether, and you could create a new column with it and all. But here let's just find, let's say, occupation of Jack Harris. So in here let's start with equals to v lookup, and lookup value for Jack Harris. As it shows in the syntax over here, we did lookup value. Now we'll put in table array. So we can just go ahead and select the table with the mouse cursor. That is easier. Now column index numbers. So we will put in which column do we want to find the value, our value in. So we'll put in D, and that is 1, 2 from the left. So it is 1, 2, 3rd and 4th. So we'll put in 4 and range lookup. So is it like a exact match, or so as it says true is an approximate match, we want an exact match. So we'll put in false, we'll close the bracket, and there we have an entrepreneur. So Jack Harris is an entrepreneur. So another function I'm going to tell you about is of frequency. When we do this kind of descriptives, we also sometimes need to do a frequency analysis of what kind of numbers we are getting and what is the frequency between a group. So let's say I make a new table and put in age group less than 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, and more than 50. And if I just want to put in frequency of our data over here, I can just use this simple formula called frequency, and as it shows in the syntax, we have a data array and a pins array. So for data array, we can just simply select from B2 to B21. You could type it manually too. I have just selected it via cursor. And for pins array, we need to put it in a bin using curly brackets. So we'll just put in 20, 30, 40 and 50. I'll close the curly bracket, the function bracket, and there we go. So it will directly give us a frequency table using this function. So that was my 2 bits and pieces of some of the Excel functions we can use. Apart from that, please comment your questions, whatever you have from this tutorial, and happy excelling. Thank you.